Our people were called to be a holy priesthood, messengers of something greater than themselves. The message of our Jewish people wasn't, hey, look at the Jews, they're awesome. We're one of the only people that I know that has our failures forever written down. Per Gashem. And why do you think God would ask us to write down our failures?
So we don't forget.
Okay, so we don't forget? To learn. Yep, absolutely. Because why, if we do not look to the past to learn from it, then what will we do in the present and future?
Repeat.
What's that?
Repeat.
Yes, thank you. That's right. If you don't learn from the past, you will make the same mistakes moving forward. And so we have. And he's called Messiah's Israel, of which is who? Okay. Yeshua is Messiah, but who is Messiah's Israel? Okay, believers in Messiah. You have Jews and non-Jews, and this intersecting point between those two places is Messiah's Israel. Paul writes about the Messiah, or the Israel of Messiah. This is the body of believers that represent the Jewish people and then the nations at large. If you would please turn over to the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 15. We have a message to take to the world. And what is the message that we bring?
God loves.
Okay, God is love. What else?
God is in control.
God is in control.
He is consistent.
Okay, God is consistent. What else? What is the message that we bring to the world? Okay? God loved us so much that in order to restore us to our birthright, he would come down and become one of us. He wasn't content to say, okay, good luck. He wasn't there saying, I told you so. God said, here's what I want you to do. Okay, you didn't do it. But I knew that you couldn't do it. But I want you to grow into being able to do it. And only through the power of the Holy Spirit could we accomplish the commandments of God. Amen? Only by the Spirit of God. And what is the purpose of the commandments? The purpose of the commandments is not to keep the commandments. What is the purpose of them? A little louder? Okay, to be closer to God? Okay, show us what we should be doing. You teach your children what you desire them to do. And do they do it perfectly? No. They fall down and they get up. And you inspire them to learn from that so they can not make that same mistake again. And they do sometimes, just like us. But you don't say, you're never going to get it. No, that's the voice of the enemy saying, you're a failure. And you're not a failure because God is your Father. And our God is victorious. Amen? Amen? And so when we hear those words or thoughts in our heads, we have to know the source. Our God says, get up, keep going, stay close to me. Well, the apostle writes to us in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, in verse 1, he says, moreover, brothers and sisters, I declare to you the gospel which I preached to you, which also you received, and in which you stand. Okay? The gospel, the message is in which you stand. How do we stand in the gospel?
We bear witness.
Okay, bearing witness. No, we're not standing on a book. That would be sacrilegious and blasphemous. What does it mean to stand in the on the gospel?
Demonstrate your belief.
Okay, demonstrating belief. Bearing witness to what and who you are. You know what? We're like a lantern that has schmutz on the inside of it. And if there's schmutz on the inside of it, how much light can get out? Not a lot, I mean some. And so we are imperfect vessels of a perfect God who is perfection. Now, if you take that vessel and you begin to wipe on the inside of it, again, just for the example, without the flame being lit, you begin to wipe off more of the schmutz. Now, when you wipe schmutz, what happens to it? It smears, or schmears, that's right. Smeared schmutz, that's right. Say that 5 times fast. And yet, more light can still get out, but it's smeared. It's still imperfect. The more you wipe, the more you clean, the more cleaning products that you use on it, the cleaner it becomes, and yet there's still smeared schmutz. We're in process. We're in that place. We're still in process. He says, by which you are saved, for if you hold fast to the word which I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. Okay, constantly the world is trying to tell us your faith is not real. It's a bunch of fables. It's a book that has just, of a made-up person or people that didn't quite get it right. The world wants us to become like them. They are hopeless and graceless, and misery loves company. God says, no, I don't want you to become like the world, which is hopeless. I want you to be filled with hope so that you inspire others. He says, I want you to be the yeast in humanity that infects, in a good way, the gospel of hope. He said, I want you to be that agent in the world which causes them to rise to me. For I delivered you to, first of all, that which I also received, that Messiah died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and after he was buried, and that he rose again on the third day according to the Scriptures, that he was seen by Cephas, or Peter, and then by the 12, and that he was seen by over 500 brothers and sisters at once, of whom the greater part remain to the present, but some have fallen asleep. And after that he was seen by Yaakov, James, and then by all the apostles. And last of all, he was seen by me, also as one born out of due time, for I am the least of the apostles, who am not worthy to be called an apostle, because I persecuted the church of God. Okay. He killed and drug off those who were believers, who professed to be messianics, Christians, who wouldn't compromise their faith, and he delivered them over to jail and to death. But God is a God of redemption. He is a God who restores. He says, continuing in verse 10, but by the grace of God I am what I am, and his grace towards me was not in vain, but I labored more abundantly than they all, because he had to. No, yet not I, but the grace of God which was within me. Okay, and he says, not I, but the grace of God. What is he saying? Okay, it's not by his strength, but by... That's right, grace is the power to accomplish God's will in you. He says that, therefore, whether it was I or they, so we preach, and you believed. Now, if Messiah is preached that he had been raised from the dead, how do some say among you that there is no resurrection of the dead? Why did he have to say this? Okay, the faith is brand new, in essence of what is being proclaimed. Judaism is centuries, millennium old. But the faith in Messiah is brand new at this point. Why does he say that some don't believe in the resurrection?
Because some did not, and they were taught by the leaders.
Yeah. Okay, so in a larger sense, the Sadducees, the Zaddukim, were those who didn't believe in the resurrection. They were Jews, many, not all, but many of them were priests, Cohens, and they didn't believe in the resurrection. They believed that it's one and done, man, this is it. There's no resurrection. Well, they brought that into, many of them who were formerly, who became believers, they brought that belief into congregations of God. And it says that if there is no resurrection of the dead, then Messiah is not risen. And if Messiah is not risen, then our preaching is empty and your faith is worthless. Empty, if there is no resurrection. Okay? Today, many people believe that you go to heaven. That's it. But there is a resurrection coming where the body will be reunited with the spirit, the soul, and made a whole person again. The resurrection is true. For yes, and this is verse 15, we are found false witnesses because we have testified of God that he raised up Messiah, whom he did not raise up, if in fact the dead do not rise. For if the dead do not rise, then Messiah is not risen. And if Messiah is not risen, your faith is worthless, hopeless, and you are still in your sins. Okay? Why is his resurrection so crucial? It wasn't just one man being raised from the dead. Why is his resurrection so crucial?
Because without it, there's no hope of salvation.
Okay? Without him, there is no hope of salvation.
There's no life for us.
Yeah.
Eternal life. Be like all the other gods that died, buried in the grave.
Yeah. There are a lot of dusty gods out there. Broken down statues, forgotten statues. It's because they weren't real. But Messiah's resurrection, remember we just studied this a few weeks back. His resurrection, not only was it just his resurrection, but it was the harrowing, the emptying of hell and taking the righteous with him, it says. And not just that, but he enabled us to come back into our birthright. And what is our birthright? Okay, to become like him, to be children, sons and daughters of the Most High. And so if he didn't rise from the dead, then we have no forgiveness, because our only forgiveness comes through the shedding of blood. And our forgiveness comes the shedding of the perfect and precious blood, which was then taken according to the ritual, which we see played out in Israel, but has of a heavenly origin, which is previous to Israel, is the taking of the holy blood into the most holy place and presenting it before the throne, of which our Messiah did as he ascended to heaven and entered into the heavenly place, which it says in the book of Hebrews. The holy blood was taken by the Holy One, who is the holy vessel, into the holy place and completing the ritual of our forgiveness, completing our restoration. If you inherit money from a relative, what do you have to do? Okay, you have to accept it. What's that? Oh, there's taxes. Yep. Sure. The inheritance is there. The lawyer says, hey, do you want this inheritance? And you go, You don't have it yet because you haven't apprehended it and taken it. It's there, but it's worthless to you because you haven't taken it. It's not enough to have it. You have to appropriate it and then put it into use. So we see that the essence of our faith hinges upon not just the death, but the resurrection and then the ascension, of course, into the heavenly places. But he says that you're still in your sins. Okay, there's only forgiveness through blood. We can accept that or not accept it. It doesn't really matter. It's like gravity. It just is what it is. It doesn't really matter if we agree with it or not. It is that which God has decreed. He says, then also those who have fallen asleep in Messiah have perished. It means you're never going to see him again. It's hopeless, really. I mean, you might as well eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you're going to die and it's all done. What a sad existence. How do people live every day? I asked a certain person who doesn't believe in Messiah, how do you do this every day? Because I wanted to know their answer, but more, I wanted to stimulate a thought of, I don't know. What? I don't know. Because people, I do not think twice sometimes. We simply accept whatever it is until eternity breaks in a moment, and a flash of the grace, power, energy of God touches the heart of a person. And they begin to ask the questions, I don't know. Why do I do this every day? I asked the same person at a different point, do you believe in life after death? And they said, after thinking for several seconds, No, I really don't. But I can see that you do. And that's where I left the question. Because my purpose wasn't to bring anything more than just the spark of consideration of what it is that you live for each day. This life is gone. And this life is very precious. It's an investment. How do we invest? He says that in verse 19, if this life only we have, if in this life we have hope in Messiah, then we of men are most pitiful. In other words, if Messiah didn't rise from the dead, and there is no life after death, there is no resurrection of the dead, then we're wasting our times. But now Messiah is risen from the dead and has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. Okay? First fruits, it's one of our feasts. What is the first fruits?
First to rise from the dead.
Okay.
Eternally.
Okay, first to rise from the dead. And the first fruits is the first portion of the harvest. It's the best of the harvest that is then offered to God. Okay, so if Messiah is the first fruits, does that mean that there's more fruits? Yep. You don't just take a portion of the harvest and go, there, that's it. No, if there's a first fruits, and then there is a second, and so on. Okay, so we are in that second fruits. Which doesn't sound very attractive, but it is. We are inheritors of the harvest of which our Father and our Messiah have begun. For since by man came death, by man, the man, capitalized man, speaking of Messiah, also came the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Messiah shall all be made alive. But each one in his own order, Messiah, the first fruits, and afterwards those who are Messiahs at his coming. Okay, so, and we know that this is the speaking of the resurrection. Okay, over to the next book, 2 Corinthians chapter 3. 2 Corinthians chapter 3. In verse 1 it says, do we begin to commend ourselves, or we need, as some others, epistles of condemnation to you, or letters of commendation from you? But you are our epistle, written in hearts, known and read by all men. Clearly, you are an epistle of Messiah, ministered by us, written not with ink, but by the Spirit of the living God, and on the tablets of stone, and not on tablets of stone, but on the tablets of flesh, that is of the heart. Okay? When he says, you are our epistle, he's speaking of the apostolic college, or the collegiality, the council of apostles. When he says, you are our epistle, what is he saying? What is an epistle?
A letter.
Okay, a letter? A witness? Okay? He says, you, and he's not talking to just them, he's talking to you and me and all who would be of Messiah. If we are the letter of God to the world, what is written? Wow.
So is that what people see in us once we declare they know that we're following Yeshua? So how we live our lives with people watching is what they're going to see? Is
Yeah.
that what that's saying?
Yeah.
You know, he could have used all kinds of euphemisms, but he used written, a document, which infers something legal and permanent. I never thought of it that way before, but that's quite lovely.
I think of it as a letter of gratitude, affection, telling the stories of his mercy. This is what should be written upon our hearts. What is written upon your heart? My heart needs an eraser taken to write and eliminate out a lot of things that are present in it. Because my epistle is not perfect yet. My witness is not perfect. But by his grace, his power, his energy to accomplish his will in me, Baruch Hashem, I will be. He says that, and we have, this is verse 4, that we have such trust or faith or assurance through Messiah toward God. Not that we are sufficient of ourselves to think of anything as being from ourselves, but our sufficiency is from God, who made us sufficient as ministers of the new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. Okay, when we say the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life, give me an example.
Is that talking about the law instead of grace?
I don't see it as different. I don't see it as a variance. It's actually the same thing.
Since we are his epistles and we are his letter, we're imperfect.
Yep.
So we make mistakes and we sin and we make, not knowingly, but we may cause another to sin. So we're imperfect.
Okay.
So that's how I see
Okay.
killing.
All right. Good. Good example.
Could the letter kills, going on what Mary Beth just said, people, like I had that experience with that woman who unfortunately told me my brother, trying to help me somehow, telling me my brother's in hell because he didn't know the Lord. That somebody who knew the Lord, I was not a believer, is trying to tell me they understood through that, but did so much damage, it scarred me.
Okay. So an example of this would also be that the law says, don't kill. Okay? But Yeshua says to us, but I tell you, what? If you hate another person, you're guilty of the commandment. Well, I don't remember seeing it in the Torah that says if I hate somebody, it says don't kill somebody. Okay? He says, no, I'm taking it higher than that. I want you to see the intention of the written, but I want you to understand the spirit of that. Hate leads to murder. All of the physical, outward things lead to something within us that kills us. And people that look at the outward and say, well, I'm not guilty of that. Thank God I'm not guilty of this. I thank you, O Lord. I'm not like other men.
You can keep the entire Torah and still die.
That's right, in your sins. Yep. He wants us to go higher than just the written. He wants us to look at the intention of it. The Spirit gives life. He says, don't do this, but then he also clarifies it and amplifies it so that we understand that it was a gateway so that we could understand ourselves. He says to the Pharisees, to the unrighteous ones, you whitewashed tombs, which I'm sure was not a very complimentary phrase to they were used to being bowed and scraped to and said, oh, you're amazing, you're awesome. And this man says, you whitewashed, rotting pit of bones. Ugh. That's got to be pretty shocking. He says, you make the outside look good. You do all these things out here so that you can receive the praise of people. But inside, you're death and dead. So God tells you and to me, yeah, we're going to make mistakes out here. We're going to fail out here, all of us, even with the Ruach HaKodesh, the Spirit of God. He says, clean the inside of the cup. And here's the work that we do each day. Wiping the smeared schmutz each day. He says that continuing, that if, verse 7 says, if the ministry of death written and engraved on stones was glorious. Okay, ministry of death? Why would he speak of the Torah or the Ten Commandments like that? Ministry of death? Why would he say that?
You need to die to self in order to show forth the love of God to him and to our neighbor.
Okay. Are the Ten Commandments done away with? Nope. Nope, they're eternal. But God wants us to go deeper than just the words of those. Those were the 10 overall arching interactions with God and people. Okay? But there's lots of subsets of those. And he says, I'm going to take you deeper. Well, you know what? I keep the Sabbath every week. And I do this and I do that, and I don't do this and I don't do that. Am I holy because of that? Nope. Because you can do all of that and miss the kingdom of God by miles. It isn't just taking piecemeals of the Old Testament and trying to make it into something, to a system that you can feel good about yourself. It's about cleaning the inside of the cup. And this is the element of the new covenant, which could only be instituted and lived out by the Spirit of God which lives within his believers. And even then, my God, is it hard. So we see, continuing, how much more of the ministry of the Spirit, was the ministry of death, written and engraved on stones, was glorious, so that the children of Israel could not look steadily at the face of Moses because of the glory of his countenance, which glory was passing away. How much will the ministry of the Spirit be more glorious? For if the ministry of condemnation had glory, then the ministry of righteousness exceeds more in glory. For what was made glorious had no glory in this respect, because of the glory that excels. For if what is passing away was glorious, what remains is even more glorious. And therefore, since we have such hope, we use great boldness of speech. Unlike Moses, who put a veil over his face, so the children of Israel could not look steadily at the end of what was passing away. But their minds were blinded. And until this day, the same veil remains unlifted in the reading of the Old Testament, because the veil is taken away in Messiah. And even to this day, when Moses is read, a veil lies over their heart. Nevertheless, when one turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. Okay? When you read the Old Testament to a Jewish person, or for that matter, anyone who is not the Spirit of God, reads the same words, they're going to see entirely different things. Someone who has grown up Jewish, who has studied the Torah, who has a command of the Hebrew, you can read the same words, not going to see it. The Passover meal itself is all about Jesus, all about Yeshua, from beginning to end. And they're not going to see it. No amount of logic, no amount of arguing is going to get them to understand or see it. Not by power and not by might, but by my Spirit, says the Lord. Illumination to our hearts and our minds only comes through the Spirit of God, not through arguing, not through trying to use logic. So we see that this veil is there, and it's on truly the hearts of people, not just the Jewish people, but all people who have not come into covenant with Messiah. And even some of us who are in the covenant of Messiah still have this veil that we need to be striving to pierce. When I say veil over our hearts, what are some examples of that could be for us, even today? Which keep us from seeing and understanding. Say? Okay, the hardness of our hearts, sure. Unforgiveness could certainly keep us. Distractions, selfishness.
Judgments.
Our judgments.
Pride.
Addictions. Yep. Anything which keeps us from growing. Do you get angry? Yeah. Do you think ill of other people? Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. You're still in process. Still more stuff to wipe out of the inside. The veil which keeps us can be things that we've learned from the past which just aren't true. Lies that we believe, which keep us from understanding and growing. These are the veils which still can remain. It says, where the Spirit of the Lord there is. So now if the Lord is Spirit, this is verse 17, the Lord is Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord there is liberty, freedom. But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image from glory to glory, just just as by the Spirit of the Lord. Okay, so the mirror. Where's the mirror? It's inside of you. It's the mirror. When God looks into your mirror, what does he see? He sees smeared schmutz when he looks into this heart. Lord have mercy upon me, a sinner. Our battling with ourselves is our wiping away. Our striving by God and for God is the cleansing, the wiping away of the stuff that's on the mirror of the heart.
Thank God for Yeshua, because then God looked at through the blood.
Yep. Yep. So this is the part of the process. Continuing, therefore, since we have this ministry, such as we have received mercy, do not lose heart. But we have renounced the hidden things of shame, not walking in craftiness or handling the word of God deceitfully, but by manifestation of the truth, commending ourselves to every man's conscience in the sight of God. Okay? He is calling us to continually be wiping away of the things which keep us. What is something between us and God? What is that called? An idol. An idol is sitting in the place that blocks our view of God. And it's stuff, and it's people, and it's whatever we think is going to make us happy. These become idols, and they get in the way of us. And if anything gets in the way of us, that's what we need to remove. Okay? So the abomination that causes desolation is a type and a symbol for something greater than what will occur in the end times. And the abomination that causes desolation is set up where? What's that? Okay. Where is it set? In the temple. Okay. And it's abomination because it defiles the temple. Okay. You are the temple of the living God. You are more precious than the temple in Jerusalem will ever be. Removing those things from the heart is the whole message of Hanukkah. The whole purpose of Hanukkah is this great opportunity. So we see that this is really the process. And I lost my place. What verse are we on? Is it number, verse 2? In the middle of 2?
I thought you were in 3, but,
Well, there you go. So, let's see.
but even if our gospel is.
Okay.
It is veiled to
All right, so verse 3. So, even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing, whose mind the God of this age, who is who? Okay, Hasatan, the enemy, has blinded, do not believe, lest the light of the gospel of the glory of Messiah, who is the image of God, should shine upon them. For we do not preach ourselves, but Messiah Yeshua the Lord, and ourselves your bondservants for Messiah's sake. For it is God who commanded light to shine out in the darkness, who has shown in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Messiah Yeshua. But we have this treasure in earthen vessels that have the excellence of power, that the excellence of the power may be of God and not of us. Okay, so if you have a lamp, does the glass and the vessel that holds that, is it the light? What is the light? Okay, it's that which burns within it. Okay, we don't go, man, I'm pretty sharp. Yeah, I'm pretty bright. No, we are moons reflecting the light of God. The moon is a dead hunk of dirt. But by the glory of the sun, it becomes beautiful. And here we see how so we are, a dead hunk of dirt without the glory, the reflection of the light of God. He says, but we are hard-pressed on every side, yet not crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. Okay? Hard-pressed on every side. What does that entail? Or what does that look like?
Living in the world.
Okay, living in the world. What else? What's that? Okay, persecution, yeah. Hard-pressed. Does that sound comfortable? Imagine you've just consumed a large meal. And you're
Hard pressed to get out of your chair?
possibly. Your belt doesn't fit quite the same as it did before you started the meal. And it's uncomfortable, and you feel hard-pressed. Perplexed. You ever feel perplexed sometimes? Man, by the end of the day, sometimes I'm just like, oh.
Hard pressed can also be the struggle that we go through to develop the virtues within our life.
Yep.
Because how many times we fail in the pursuit of the virtues of God.
Yep. Does an Olympic athlete go, you know, I've been trying to, what's that called? Is it pole vault? I keep falling. Yeah, but you're not in a relay race, pole vaulter. You're in a pole vaulting. You got to do the pole vaulting. You don't pick and choose what you want in this time. You chose. So vault it, baby. I keep falling off the pole vault. Like, I missed the bar and went over. An Olympic athlete does not achieve what they set out to achieve if they give up before they perfect that craft. And our craft is of the utmost importance because it's eternal. I keep making mistakes. I keep falling. I keep failing. Get up. Keep going. There is nothing else. There is only the way of the world, which is hopelessness. So we see that this is the message the apostle is saying. He's like, don't give up. He says in verse 10, always caring about in a body the dying of Messiah Yeshua, that the life of Yeshua may be manifest in our body. Okay, when he says die to self, and we carry this around, this dying to self, what is he referring to? Okay, killing the passions within us. Okay, conforming our will to God, the desires of the flesh. Sounds like a lot of effort. Yep, it does. It is.
Now, when it comes to the desires, I mean, there's certain things that are wholesome, like hunger is a natural thing trying to tell you that you need some nourishment. But it's the overindulgence of food that's the focus there.
Yep.
Passion of the flesh.
The passions are the distortions of the virtues. They're the counter, the underside of what God has asked of us. And when we take the things and we're out of sync with God, then the things that we do and think and say are not in alliance with God, and we're out of harmony. Got to tune the instrument so that it hits the right note. Okay, well, today I'm not hitting the right note, God. Have mercy on me. Rise up tomorrow. Praise you, O Lord. You've given me my breath in this body once more. Lord, let your will be done in me today. And maybe I have a little success, and I also fail again. Next day, I rise up again, and I keep moving forward. We don't stop. Builders don't stop building a building because something breaks. You don't stop building a building because the rocks that you were using crumble. If you're halfway through a building and what the material that you're using crumbles, then what do? You get better material. And you keep building so that you can finish the project. Finish what God has started in you. None of us, not you, not me, nobody can go at the end of this life, yeah, I did a pretty good job. Whoa. Thank you, God. Pretty awesome. No, you and I didn't get there no matter what good we did because we are awesome, but because he is awesome. and we were obedient in those small moments in time. And may he hide from us the good things so that he can say, well done. And he lays out your life of the beautiful things that you did for him. And you don't even remember them. Because if you and I think about the good things that we do, it becomes pride. And then we become complacent. And we rest rather than saying, oh Lord, what do you want me to do today? Yesterday's past. Today, oh Lord, let me do your will today. Baruch Hashem. So he says that always carrying about in the body the dying of Messiah Yeshua, that the life of Messiah may be manifest in our body. For you who live are always delivered to death for Messiah's sake, that the life of Messiah may be also manifested in our mortal flesh. So then death is working in us, but life in you. And since we have the same spirit of faith, according to what is written, I believed and therefore I spoke, we also believe and therefore speak, knowing that he who raised up Messiah Yeshua will also raise us up with Messiah and will present us with you. For all things are for your sakes, that grace, having been spread through the many, power, the energy, to accomplish God's will, having spread through the many, may cause thanksgiving to abound in the glory of God. And therefore we do not lose heart, even though our inward man is perishing, but yet the outward man is perishing, yet the inward man is being renewed day by day. For our light affliction, which is but for a moment, is working for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of glory. The trials of this life, as difficult and unspeakably difficult as they are sometimes, is the process by which we complete this Olympic race that we are in. For a moment, this is our lives, and eternity is endless. He says, whatever you endure and persevere through in this life, you're sowing seeds of immortality. You are looking towards the eternal things. While we do not look at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporary, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Eye has not seen, nor ear has not heard that which God has prepared for those whom he loves. Anything you've heard about the afterlife in Messiah is a pale sketch. It lacks the fullness and spaciousness and the color of what it is. But the descriptions are there to inspire us to move forward. And therefore we do not lose... in chapter 5. For we know that if our earthly house, this tent, the body, is destroyed, we have a house not made with hands, and eternal in the heavens. Of course, this is the dwelling place of God. For this we groan, earnestly desiring to be clothed with our habitation which is from heaven. Indeed, having been clothed, we shall not be found naked. But we who are in this tent groan, being burdened. Can I hear a groan? Oh. What's the groan? The groan is our everyday labor of striving forward through whatever it is that you strive through. Whether it's job or health or family or whatever. These are the things which are there to help us understand. We're pilgrims. Does a pilgrim set up and build a house? No. A pilgrim lives in a tent because they're not going to be there for very long. They're going to keep moving. In the desert, you don't build a house in the desert if you're a pilgrim. You and I are pilgrims in this world. We're on a journey. And it is this tent, which we are pitched in for a time being, it's only for a minute, even though it seems long at times. But he says, continuing, that if indeed having been clothed we shall not be found naked, for we who are in this tent groan, being burdened, and not because we want to be unclothed, but rather clothed, that mortality may be swallowed up by life. Now that he has prepared us for this very thing is God, who has given us a spirit as a guarantee. Baruch Hashem. so that we are always confident, knowing that while we are at home in this body, we are absent from the Lord. For if we walk by faith and not by sight, we are confident, yes, well pleased, rather to be absent from the body than and to be present with the Lord. Therefore, we make it our aim, whether present or absent, to be well pleasing to him. Okay? Our goal is to make our lives conform and well pleasing to God. We're striving to hear well done from our Master. For we all must appear before the what? Judgment seat of Messiah, that each one may receive the things done in the body according to that which he has done, whether good or bad. Knowing, therefore, the terror or awesomeness of the Lord, that we might persuade men, but we are well known to God, and I trust are well known in your consciences. Okay, we understand that, and the apostle says it here, as we do with our body in this life, so will it follow us into eternity, whether for righteousness or unrighteousness. We will be rewarded. Rewarded means we're given the wage for what we are owed. We pray that the wage that we are asked, that we receive is righteousness, the investment of our life in these times. So the new covenant is not a sales ploy to get people to buy into a multi-level marketing plan, but an opportunity to enter into the relationship with the creator of the universe and be transformed into his likeness and the qualities of his divinity. To become children of God means that we exemplify the qualities of the one who has begotten us. Just as like my children are blessed or cursed, I don't know. I brought something to this, and so they are my children. And my family shares this. My wife shares in this quality. We bring something to the table, to the equation. They are like me, but they are different than me in many ways. Our calling is to be like our Father. What are some examples of what our God is like? Okay, loving. What else? Merciful. Forgiving, yep. Compassionate, yep. And so these, what's that? Oh, thank God. Long-suffering and patient. Aren't you glad God is patient? So for us, our faith demands that we enter into the spiritual arena and become forged into the likeness of our God through daily exertion and exercise of faith in action, falling and rising, that we may be found risen at the last hour of our lives. Repentance and prayer should become for us as natural as breathing and eating. Repentance and prayer should become for us as natural as eating and breathing. Have you ever had a fast from food? Yeah? Okay, that's hard. How about fasting from breathing? God, I'm going to do it for 6 hours. Well, it's probably not going to end well. So repentance is our constant turning to God. And prayer, what is prayer? Conversation with God. Conversation so that we get to know him and he gets to know us, although he already knows us. He wants us to want him to know us. So this is the part of the process. We are called to become like our Father. Our God is the only God who has ever said, I want you to share my kingdom. I don't want you to just be awestruck that I'm God, although he deserves that. He says, I want you to share with me. Messiah says, I came down, I lived, I suffered, I died, I strove and was obedient so that you also could share in my kingdom. Our God is awesome beyond belief and merciful. So let us, therefore, strive to become like him, to put these things into practice and to become more and more like him each day. Let us clean the inside of the cup. Amen. Our Father, we thank you for this time. Well, Lord, we just pray that you would continue to inspire us to move forward with the purpose. And Lord, rise up whenever we fall. And Abba, forgive those who also fall, that they may rise up as well. May you be praised and glorified in all things. Amen.